All right, so in this lesson, we are going to be introduced to all the rules for exponents. Then we are going to do scientific notation, and then we're going to see an application of putting together examples of putting together the rules of exponents with scientific notation. So the first rule of exponent that we have is the product rule. The product rule simply means that when we are multiplying two exponents, we're multiplying the exponents, we will add them. So let me go ahead and make sure I get my pen working. So if you were to have x squared times x cubed, the rule says that when we multiply, the bases are the same. We're simply going to add that. So that means we get x5. If we have a to the fourth times a to the fifth, that's going to give me, a to the ninth. All right, so this is the product rule. Now we have the quotient rule. In the quotient rule, we are going to subtract when we are dividing. We are going to subtract when we are dividing. So let's say we have x3 over x2. The rule says we're going to subtract them. So if I have 3 in the top and I take away 2, I am left with x1. Another example could be I have y6 over y3. When I subtract that, I have 6 in the top, take away 3. I am left with y3. Something important that I want you to know, let's say you have x squared over x3. If we were to expand this out, right? This x cancels with this one, this x cancels with this one. So I am left with 1 over x. All right, so leave the x's or leave the remaining where they're the most. So we have one example here, another example here, and let's just do one more. If I have x7 over x10, the most x's are in the denominator, so they will stay in the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to put a 1 at the top to let me know that this x to the third is in the denominator. Because if I were just writing it as x3, I wouldn't know where that goes, if that's in the top or in the bottom. So you have to make sure you put it over 1. All right? Then we have the zero exponent rule. This simply means anything to the power of 0 is just 1. So if I have x to the 0, that is 1. If I have b to the power of 0, that is 1. What about if I have negative b to the power of 0? If you think about it, this is negative 1 times b to the power of 0. Well, b to the power of 0 is 1. Agree? So negative 1 times 1, I have negative 1. But what about now? What about if it's negative b inside parentheses to the power of 0? Well, now in this case, yes, the negative is with the b inside parentheses to the power of 0. So then that will be 1. And later on, we'll see more examples where they're a little bit more complex. But what I want you to understand that even if you have something like ab squared c4 and all of this is raised to the power of 0, that's still just 1, all right? Now we have the negative exponent rules. It simply means we do not want your final answer to be in a negative, to have exponent that is negative. So if you have x to the negative 1, we are going to rewrite this as 1 over x. If you have, let's go back. If we have, I don't know, b to the negative 1, that's just going to be 1 over b. Let's say if we have x negative 2 over y negative 3, we do not want them to be negative, so we are just going to flip them. The y is going to go to the top, the x is coming to the bottom. So then now this becomes y3 over x2. And notice how the exponents are now positive. Let's look at another example. If we have x4 over y negative 2. If you notice here, the y is the one that has a negative exponent. So that's the one that I'm going to send to the top. But the x to the 4 is a positive exponent. So I'm not moving that. I'm leaving it exactly as it is. Okay? So now my exponents are positive. So the movement from top to bottom would change the sign. Okay? The movement from top to bottom would change the sign. Now we have the power rule. So this is simply a power to a power. So when you have an exponent already raised to another exponent. So let's say I have x squared raised to the third power. Well, this is a shortcut to the product rule, so we're just going to multiply this 2 right here. So this is going to be x to the 6. Let's say I have a squared b3, all of this raised to the 4th power. Well, that's it. It's just the a squared gets the 4. The b cubed gets the 4 as well. So when I simplify that, this is a to the 8th power, b to the 12th power. Okay, and the same applies if we have the inequation. So let's say we have a2 over b4, all raised to a 3. Did I do that the same thing? No. So then that means a2 gets a 3, the b4 gets a 3 as well. So then this is a6 over b12. 6. So that means it's shortcut to the product rule. We're just multiplying, all right? So we are just multiplying. And then we can do another example. Let's say we have x2, y3 over z. And all of this is raised, oh, that's big. Well, raised to 2. So I'm just multiplying. The 2 times the 2, this is x to the 4th. The 3 times the 2, y to the 6, over c squared. Because there's a little one here that I don't see, but I know it's there. Okay. And that was the power rule. Now, I think we worked on good examples there, so we can go dive into this example right here. So in this example, we're just going to apply the rules together, all right? So first of all, I know that anything raised to the power of 0 is just 1. So I know this right here is going to be 1. So 1 times 2 is just going to be 2. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2y to to the negative 3 to the negative 2. All right? Then I am going to, you know what? I need to make this y to the negative 3. I could make it positive, but I'm just going to give this negative 2 to everything. So I'm going to rewrite it as 2 to the negative 2. Y negative 3 times negative 2. Oops, negative 2. Okay? I'm going to hold on into this 2 right here in a minute. I'm going to do the multiplication of y negative 3 to the negative 2. So I'm just holding on to this. And then this becomes y 6. Now this right here is a negative. We don't want it to be negative. So if you think about it, this is like this, right? So I'm going to send it to the bottom. So it becomes 2 raised to the 2. Now the exponent being positive. All right? So then what is that? That is just 4. So the first thing I did was to use the rule of anything raised to the 0 is just 1. Then I rewrite my problem. Then I did power rule. So I gave the 2, raised it to the negative 2, the y to the negative 3, raised to the negative 2. Then I did my power to a power, where I multiply negative 3 times negative 2, which gives me y to the 6. And then I need to make my exponent positive here, so I moved it to the bottom. Okay? Let's see another example here. So I'm going to start by doing the power rule again. I'm just going to rewrite it. So I have x to the negative 5 right here. And then I have x to the negative 2, negative 3. When I multiply, that's going to give me x to the 15 positive over x to the 6 positive. And then this is quotient rule. I have 15 x's at the top. I take away 6. I am left with 9 x's. Okay. I don't think I have another example. Well, this is just all the rules that we cover. The product rule, when you multiply, you add. You multiply these two exponents. So multiply here. Okay. Again, this is just distribution. The exponent goes to each one. The same here. Distribution. You subtract when you're dividing. Anything to the power of 0 is just a beautiful 1. We don't want negative exponents, so always send them to the bottom or to the top. We do not want negative exponents. Okay. Now the second part of the lesson, I'm going to put in a different video. That way it's easier to upload.